I'm Amy Dolan, and this is the Feeding People podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to Feeding People. I'm Amy Dolan, your host, and I'm so excited for season 2. Woo! This is the start of our second season after a really great first season. That was so much fun being at the table with you every single week and talking about food and what food means to us. And I'm so thrilled that we're back for season 2 with a very special guest tonight. You're going to have to wait to find out just a minute, though, who that is, because first, I got to tell you all the good stuff. You want to make sure, as always, to go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe to our show, rate and review our show. We love to read your reviews. Thank you so much for doing that. And just thanks so much for your support overall for season 1. It was so lovely to see all of your comments on social media and the way that you shared the show and all of that. So thank you so much for that. We're looking forward to a really great second season. I have more friends who are going to be joining us at the table, eating good food and talking all about their life. So let's get to my guest, because she is like chomping at the bit over here. My guest tonight for our very first episode of season 2 is one of my very best friends, Dr. Erica Bauer.
Hey, that's what the kids say. Hey, no, is this on?
You know the kids, right?
I do know the kids. I do.
Okay, I'm glad you're at the table tonight. How are you feeling?
You know, I'm feeling really good. And one of the things, it's so funny because do people know that Kelly is your producer?
Yes.
So Kelly told me this thing, and I don't know if it was a joke or not because I'm really gullible, but he said if you kiss the filter, it brings you good luck. So
really?
Just give me a minute.
Was I in the bathroom when you said that?
I don't know, but I kissed the filter a few times. So
okay,
apologies for future guests.
I think
I'm sorry.
I think you got all the luck. You don't want to have too much, right?
Thank you. Right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Erica, thank you for being at the table tonight. Thank you
excited.
for being my guest. You're one of my very best friends. We were trying to think about how we met. We cannot remember. Which is great. We want to credit Chi-Chi, but I don't know if that's accurate or not. I remember I have this really random memory, which is funny because I don't remember anything. But I have this memory of standing at the office printer with Chi-Chi like years ago. And she said, "Do you know Erica Bauer?" And I was like, I think maybe I've heard of her. I don't know. And she said, "You should hang out with her." And I was like, "Why?" I'm very busy. She was like, "She's awesome. You're awesome." And I'm like, you know what? This sounds like my matchmaking skills, actually. This is how I set people up. I'm like, he's awesome. She's awesome. Get together. Right. And so I was like, okay, whatever. And then I remember going to coffee with you and thinking, you're awesome. Chi-Chi was right. So
it is very rare that Chi-Chi is right. So I really want to throw that out there. But then here we are.
Here we are. We've had a million meals together. We've gone out, we've sat at the table, we've celebrated birthdays, we've had a cooking club. I mean, you name it, right?
We've laughed, we've cried.
We've been through some stuff together.
Lots
That's
of
right.
stuff, yeah.
Lots of stuff. That's right. So only makes sense that you would be our first guest this season. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell everyone who you are.
Awesome. Well, as Amy said, I'm Erica Bauer. I like to describe myself as an analyst, artist, and activist.
All A's.
You know what I'm saying? That's alliteration for you. But one of the things I'm really passionate about, or the thing I'm most passionate about, is really working to ensure that there are equitable environments throughout the organizations that exist, particularly in the United States, because that's where I'm located. But I specifically work within schools and want to ensure that how we teach reflects who we teach. But beyond that, I'm really passionate about helping organizations reflect the diversity they wish to see. Yeah.
That's nice. Mm-hmm. Well, you're very good at your job. I've seen you in action.
Oh, thank you.
What do you like to do for fun?
Oh, well, for fun, I like to go out to eat. I like to hang out with my family, my partner, and our 3-year-old. We have a good time. And for the other parents out there, it's you know, a doozy to figure out how to restructure your life around this person who thinks your life should revolve around him. I also like to hang out with my close friends like you, Amy. And I like to create stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I think right now a lot of us are trying to, you know, get in this grind of figuring out what it is that we want to be doing and not just signing up for doing what others want us to be doing. And as a result of wanting to do that, it takes time and it takes dedication. So I spend time doing that. And then my work is very important to me.
Yes. That's good. You have a very full life.
Yeah.
You're very full.
Yeah. And my stomach is so full because we had a delicious meal.
Oh, thank you for bringing that up. You were telling me all about the meat you just ordered, though, the meat delivery you just ordered. And I was like, here's this lovely vegetarian meal. I
know. But I enjoyed it. And it was gluten-free, and I'm going to try that thing.
Okay, good. Great. Tell me the very best meal that you've ever had.
It's hard. So I just want to say the thing that feels cheesy, and I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
So my partner and I have been together for 4 years. Can you believe it?
No, I really can't.
Yeah.
I mean, I believed you would make it, but...
Yeah.
Wow, 4 years.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I can't help but think about one of the favorite meals that she cooks for me, which is her ribeye.
Oh.
Is delicious. So we'll have a ribeye, baked potato, and Brussels sprouts.
Okay.
But what she and I both know is that we ain't trying to have no Brussels sprouts.
No.
But it makes you feel good.
If you just say it,
yeah,
it's basically like you ate it.
Yeah, exactly. And so by the time we get to it and we're so tired to do the Brussels sprouts because it takes so long, thanks, Ina. And then the baked potato that she puts olive oil and salt over the skin before putting it into the oven for like 15 minutes. Then we layer on the sour cream. I like to put cheese on my baked potato. We have a little salt and pepper. Sometimes I add a little hot sauce because I'm Black. That's racist, Amy. That I didn't like. I don't know why you had that on a cue card, but that is racist.
Make sure you say it.
And so that's one of my favorite meals. It's one of the few she cooks for me. Not that she can't cook, but I am the superior cook. Let's just keep it real. But it's just one of those things that it's just a nice memory for us, and we like to connect around eating a lot of times after a long day where we just sit and we reflect on our days or we watch our favorite show, and to eat a great meal when so many times we're on the run or we're eating out.
Yeah.
If I had to choose eating at a restaurant or eating ribeye, I'd choose ribeye every time.
I love that.
And that is not code for something inappropriate. It's literally ribeye.
We were all wondering.
Yeah.
I love that. That really is. It's so true. Like the best meals aren't necessarily like the most expensive, the fanciest. Sometimes they are, but it's the like comfort food at home with your loved ones where you're like safe and loved and you're letting down from the day and you're like, let's be fed and full.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I love that so much. Tell me what food was like for you growing up. Like, what did you eat in your family? Did you sit down for family meals together? Did someone teach you to cook? Did you eat fast food? Like, what was food like for you growing up?
So it's really interesting. My dad is a retired military guy. And so I spent the first 4 years of my life in Japan. So I grew up eating everything. And my mom coined this term. Maybe she didn't coin it, but I grew up with this term, try before you die. And it wasn't because what we were going to try was going to kill us. It was simply because life is short. And so we would eat what was a traditional Japanese cuisine. And that just was part of our life. So we would eat hamburgers and hot dogs, but we would eat yakisoba and we would eat Korean food like bulgogi and japchae. And then you grow up in the Air Force and then you're immediately thrown into this community of people from all over the place. And so you're eating traditional cuisine in these very, in these like spaces, these utopias in a way when it comes to culture and diversity. And so that was a big part for me of food, is just being adventurous. What's interesting as a woman of color is that I didn't grow up eating a lot of traditional foods or foods that you would associate with our culture. Part of that is because by the time I really connected what we were doing with food, my dad was primarily... My mom started out being the cook. My dad retired at 40. His passion is cooking.
Wow.
And so when he retired at 40 from the military under the old GI Bill, he went to culinary school. And so...
I did not know that.
Yeah. So my dad became a chef.
Oh my gosh.
And now he runs Eric's Edibles.
Oh my gosh.
And so food has been a part of our experience growing up, where imagine seeing your mom being the primary cook.
Yeah.
And then your dad retires, takes over the cooking, which is his passion, and she goes back to school to become a therapist.
Wow.
Yeah, all this while I'm in high school. And so our eating changed a lot, but we were always adventurous eaters, which is something considering my dad grew up blue collar in Pennsylvania and my mom grew up very, very poor. Both grew up very poor. My mom grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. And so that's just not something that we had access to.
Yeah.
And yet my mom would have tortillas, fresh tortillas from Mexico shipped to our home because of what she remembered as a kid.
Wow.
My dad would, when he was in Korea for a year without us, he took Korean cooking classes. And so it really inspired the food I ate growing up. But I didn't have chitlins.
Wow.
Never had chitlins.
Wow.
The only time I had chitlins is called tripe and was when I was in China a few years ago with my school.
Yeah.
We didn't grow up eating fried chicken. I've had it, but my dad was really passionate about baked fried chicken because of the health, the issues with health.
Yeah.
So, and even today, my parents, they eat clean. They're primarily vegan. And one of the cultural barriers my dad experiences as a caterer is that when he is cooking for predominantly African-American populations, he'll want to do things for the Super Bowl, like a taco bar. And it's not as popular.
Sure.
So food has just been this interesting thing in our family where I will always eat. I mean, I went to China a few years ago and they were trying to say, well, do you want to go to McDonald's? And I said, no, I want to eat everything you eat exactly as you eat it.
Yeah.
And they couldn't believe how much I ate. I couldn't believe how much weight I gained in that short period of time. But I love eating. And I think for me, eating has been adventurous. We did try to eat as a family, but in high school, I ended up being a very busy high schooler. And so many times the dinner would be left for me when I got back from practice. But we did try to have family meals. Holiday meals were family meals. So we try to make it a thing. And we also use it as a way to learn how to set the table.
Love it.
Just different life skills that would be important to us.
I love that you use the word adventurous, even how you would describe what food was like growing up. And I think, a lot of parents I hear who really want their kids to experience food sometimes don't know how to do that, right? Because kids, I learned that kids actually have more taste buds on their tongue, or their taste buds aren't developed yet. They're highly sensitive. So actually when we think like kids are really picky, it's because they're experiencing the sensation on their tongue in a more sensitive way, in a more heightened way than adults.
Yeah.
And so, right, like a lot of parents don't know how to handle that. Well, I want my kids to try everything and like things and figure out what they don't like, but how do I do that, right? And so I think it's so cool when I hear stories about parents who really like fed their kids everything and really valued this idea of adventurous eating. Because how would you say that plays out for you today as an adult? Like you're an adventurous eater, or you'll try anything, or right?
Yeah, I'll try anything. And I don't have any issue with eating at a new restaurant or eating a new food. I don't get into routine very much, but also how it translated. And it's a little bit of a challenge when, my partner isn't as adventurous. That's not how she grew up. And so it can be challenging when I grew up eating yakisoba and stir fry and making those at home.
Yeah.
Or when I get really almost a little pretentious where I would go to someone's, they're like, we're having fried rice. And I'm like, well, you didn't actually refrigerate the rice. And so therefore you cannot fry it.
Yes.
I can also be the person that's not the life of the party when it comes to what you cook needs to be what I eat.
Yes. The thing though that I love about you is that you always appreciate food, and that I love that. I feel like the best foodie people are the ones who appreciate like you. Right. I made you dinner tonight. It was very simple, and you really appreciated it. And when we go out, you notice and appreciate. And I love that. Like foodie people who are like just snobby to be snobby are annoying and the worst.
Yeah.
Like you should appreciate food, whether it's a super simple meal done well or really complicated, right? It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it's
and
good
there's a
food.
humility about it. Like, what do I know? I grew up in the United States, with the exception of the few years I lived in Japan. What do I know about how people experience the world and their palate?
Yeah,
like
right.
and what can be learned. And when I have opportunities to travel, I really enjoy experiencing what I can. That's the same as how people live.
Yes. I love that. It's really fun to eat with you because of that.
Oh, yeah.
You forgot to mention you're a singer in your introduction.
I did.
Okay, so let's talk about food and equity specifically, because I know equity is so important to you. How would you connect your value of food and feeding people, gathering at tables, like all of this with equity and power and justice? What is all that? I mean, easy, light, simple question, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first memory, the first lesson I got, which may be a little bit different for most people, is comes from my mom. Mm-hmm. My mom, this is a story I have, and is to why our New Year's dinner consists of a seafood buffet that is centered around king crab legs. So my mom was the only African-American who worked at Greyhound Corporation in California when she was younger. And she was up for this promotion. And so there were some people that didn't want her moving up in the ranks because she's a Black woman. Mm-hmm. And they took her out for this dinner. And the person who was kind of interviewing her, who had to okay the move into this position, was a white male who decided to order crab legs. My mom had never eaten crab legs. So for those of you who have never eaten crab legs and think about it being probably one of the most nerve-wracking times of your life or events of your life, she had no idea what to do. So you sit there.
It's not easy.
No. You have snow crab, king crab, whatever kind of crab it was. You have your little fork.
Yep.
You have your butter. But if you don't know how to open it up,
right,
you're in for an embarrassing experience.
Yep.
And that is why my mom forced me and my brothers to learn how to eat crab.
Wow.
Biggest mistake of her life. Because we are all obsessed.
You love crab.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Right? When you think about equity, you think about power, and you think about the role that food plays, it's not just about satiation.
Yes.
Right? It's also a symbol of power.
Yes.
If you order a steak well done at certain tables, that's just send a different message for you. And in the African American community, it can be very common to order a well done steak.
Yes.
But if you're at a business meeting and you order a steak, you better order it medium. You just learn these things.
Wow.
You better order it medium rare.
Wow.
It shows that you have figured, you know how to navigate these waters, and these waters are deep. And so thinking of food as a symbol of power is something that I learned early on, because I will never sit at the table and not know how to open up some king crab legs, not know how to eat an oyster, not know how to, you name it.
Wow.
I know my way around the table. And so when you think about equity, there's a part of it, you can think about food deserts, right? And the disparities around food. We live in Chicago. We know that there are spaces in Chicago that doesn't have access to fresh produce. Yes. And that just further perpetuates the health disparities that marginalized populations, specifically people of color, experience. So we have hypertension, high blood pressure, heart disease. Part of that is diet. Part of that is the realities of living in experiencing systemic oppression. But then there's a different side. There's a side that says you need to know which fork to use. You need to know which one is your salad fork. You need to know the utensils that are above your plate for dessert. You need to know when to flip over your coffee cup for dessert.
Right.
You need to know what is acceptable for when you eat your salad.
Yes.
You need to know how to set up a table. You need to know to put the napkin on your lap. All of those things also contribute to issues of equity, because now we're talking about how food becomes a barrier to accessing power because you haven't had access to this knowledge.
Erica, oh my gosh, this is so good. Okay, so, you know, the table is everything to me. I think about like how to create, how to show people that they're equally made in the image, the beautiful image of God by coming to a table, right? And so I think of it in terms of like, we're eating the same food, right? So if you have an allergy or you can't afford or you can afford or whatever, you grew up with certain foods, when we come to the table, we're eating the same food, and that's because we all deserve and enjoy and can share a similar experience, right? But you're talking about how when we come to the table, it's not even about the meal necessarily. It's about like even when you first sit down at the table, the inequity that we even just bring from that first moment, right?
Yeah. Now that you say that, we talk about systems of oppression. The dinner table setup is a part of white dominant structure. And is a system of oppression.
Yes.
Can be.
Yes.
Because when you invite people to the table, there are rules of engagement.
Yes.
And if we haven't all grown up around these rules of engagement, then even though you gave me a seat, you gave me your setting, you gave me all the same food, if I don't know how to use these things, I'm still on the outside.
And as a white person, I then can see, right? That a person of color is not following the rules
Yep.
at the table, and I can, however, like feel my power.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Even though we're sitting at the same table, we're looking eye to eye, we're eating the same food. I think everything is the same. It's not, right?
Yeah. And even now that you say that, I worked in catering at my university. My neighbor she ran the University of Dayton catering. And so I worked there. And even still, so here we are, the servers. And there would be observations. For instance, there would be this correlation between African-American people who are eating and the amount of sugar packets put into the tea. Right? And even that became a way of judgment for us as servers to even distinguish among our servers between in and out, in group and out group.
Wow.
The people who eat just like me and the people that don't.
Wow.
And so it just can be used, just as food and the table can be used for a place of building community and gathering.
Yes.
It can also be a place of division and othering.
Yes.
And so I feel like my parents did a really good job of helping to ensure I understood that landscape. And let me tell you, when I went in to get my PhD program as the only African-American in a Big Ten university, knowing my way around all of these different meals with different stakeholders, knowing my way around these meals when I went to conferences made a difference.
Wow.
It made a difference. Even if it didn't make a difference to who I was dining with, it made a difference to my own self-concept, self-esteem, and perception that I actually belonged here.
Wow, Erica, I'm so deep in thought. Like this
Me
is
too. I mean, who knew this is what we're going to talk about? I thought we were going to sing songs about food and talk about my first time I had a Big Mac at McDonald's, which was a rite of passage, by the way. And that secret sauce, it's just Thousand Island dressing. Sorry to break it to you.
It is.
But who knew? You're helping them reflect on things that I take for granted now. But working in a school space, like these things still come up when I'm out with my students in different settings or when I go on these international trips. And the students, regardless of identity, are trying to navigate this.
Right.
And I'll check my students really quickly. And it tend to be the white students that will say, ew, when we're in different countries. So here, I've experienced when we go to different neighborhoods, some of our black students will say, ew. It's not what they've experienced. When we go to different countries, the white students saying, ew.
Yeah.
And both wrong. It's and. It's not ew, it's and.
Yes.
This is what is eaten here. And this is what is eaten over here.
Yes.
So will you engage? Will you humble yourself and engage into somebody else's experience and reality?
Yes.
And then that translates far beyond food.
Yes.
And yet we need food every day.
Right. So how do we create, I mean, this is like all I want my life to be about is like creating tables where we can come, right? And like really connect with each other and grow because we sat across the table with someone.
Yeah.
And I think the table has the potential to do that. But what we're talking about is still the barriers, obviously the barriers that exist to being able to connect at a table.
Yeah.
Right? I remember, I love that the table can be a place for connection. I think it's better than it has the power to do that better than other places, but it's not like you just sit down at the table and because now we're like having a friendly meal where everything is equal and fine. It's not. So how do you suggest, like, how do we come to the table mindful of the power dynamics and also is it about acknowledging? Is it about like, when I was starting Sunday Supper Church, a friend told me, I said, I really want to, beauty is like a value I want to hold deep, right? So I want to create a beautiful table for everyone because I believe that's what will help us connect. And a friend said to me, well, everyone's definition of beauty and a beautiful table is different. So if you're going to create a beautiful table, that's great, but that will be beautiful to your white, straight, educated, married self. And I'm like, and I think about that all the time. Like how specifically at Sunday Supper Church, are we setting a table with enough, it can't be the same beautiful table every time.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's only going to be beautiful to whoever set the table or designed the table that day. So like, what would you say? How do we come to tables acknowledging the inequities that exist, the power dynamics that exist, and really saying, okay, here's what a beautiful connective table would look like to me. What does a beautiful connective table look like to you?
I don't know. I think, so this is what two things that pop in my head. One is, I remember one of my earliest memories of not liking something, and I probably is because I embarrassed my parents, is that we were having Thanksgiving with family friends. Mm-hmm. They happen to be a white family. Mm-hmm. And guys, I like white people. We have a lot of, my partner's white, okay? I grew up around a lot of white people, so don't get it twisted. But we go and hang out with this family, long family friends. And one of the things that was there was a big to-do around this one meal that had been passed, this one dish that had been passed down from generations and for us to eat. So here I am, so young, and I took a little taste and I said I didn't want to eat it. My mom said, you need to eat it because all this pomp and circumstance circulated. And so I just started crying. I'm like, I don't want to eat it. My mom said, why don't you want to eat it? And I said, because it tastes like throw up.
Oh, no.
And so I think about that.
Yeah.
And think about, did you create a space where people could actually say no? Right? Like, I'm a child. My palate was on point. You just talked about how my palate at that age was likely very sensitive.
Yeah.
So if I think it tastes like throw up, that is not invalid. That is consistent with my palate. But you set me up to where now we're eating on the banquet table with Jesus there, and I think it tastes like throw up. So there's no winning. There's no winning for me there.
This is life-changing, what you just said. I want to write this down, literally.
That it tastes like throw up.
Yes.
So I just write, quote, it tastes like, not the
Doctor. Reverend.
Dr. Bauer.
No, how do you create a space where people say no?
Yeah. People have to be able to say they don't like it.
They have to be able to. And it's like the opposite of what we were taught. I mean, I appreciate our parents who taught us, like, you be polite and you thank people and all of that.
And look at the starving children and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Not a good move.
Right. But how... Darren Calhoun said this on an episode, season 1. He said, how do you advocate you have to advocate not only for others and their food, but you have to advocate for yourself in your food, right? Because it's so hard even to say, like, you go in your family's house, I'm vegetarian. I'm like, no, you want to just you don't want to inconvenience anyone. You want to just quietly, put the bacon under the table, whatever. But how do you create a space where people can say no? Yep. Yeah, no, I don't eat that food. I don't like that food. That food makes me uncomfortable. That's not my tradition. That's not my whatever. And it not be like, it's still, there is still you can still receive that as appreciation. And, it's not like the end of the world.
No, I think that's huge. And you're having me
you said it.
I mean, like I said, how do you create, right? We talk about consent with our bodies. What about consent with what we put in our bodies?
Right.
Which is kind of like, okay.
Okay.
But even you think about adults. So the table isn't welcoming in how it exists. Yes. How many of us use a table as a litmus test of sorts? Do you like my cooking? Or do you belong? So growing up in the way that I did and moving around, there were some things that I didn't eat in the same way that other people who look like me did. So am I welcome to engage as I want to engage? Or am I going to be ostracized? Or I remember in a previous relationship going to Thanksgiving. And one of the things that's traditional in African-American culture during Thanksgiving, which is an oppressive holiday about a genocide of a whole people.
Side note.
Yeah. But is to have macaroni and cheese. So me and my family were dining with my previous partner family. And we had we brought macaroni and cheese because I noticed what white families, and this was a white family, tend to have mashed potatoes for Thanksgiving. Yep. Never grew up having mashed potatoes. I don't know many Black people, if any, that have that. I know that they exist because the table is welcoming. And so I remember that we brought this macaroni and cheese, and it's not like Kraft. And if it was, that's fine. But it was more like 5 cheese, macaroni and cheese baked in the oven.
Come on.
And the uncle said, well, who brought macaroni and cheese to Thanksgiving? The Native Americans?
Whoa.
And I said, no, the Black people. So here we are on this sacred holiday. And being told that we're not welcome. So for whom is the table a barrier, right? Yes. What are the things, you're right, there are people that have different food allergies to gluten, vegetarian, vegan. You got people doing the Whole 30. Do we welcome or ostracize them? Why is it that they prefer to stay at home to eat versus going out to eat?
Yes.
And then when you think about our food situation, what are we doing? What kind of relationships do we have with the people before we dine with them?
Right.
A lot of times eating with people is a way of getting to know them. And I'm not problematizing that.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about working in a high school as I do right now. I know how to throw a party for my kids because I know them. I know not to set a table. I know not to get fancy pizza. I have kids from every zip code of the city. I know what it means to dine in high school. And so I would never bring out China onto school desk with this exorbitant meal, not because they don't deserve it, because that's not how we're going to build community today.
Yeah.
That connotes a different environment.
They would immediately come to that table and say, "This, who did this? This is not for us."
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how are you designing your meals for whoever the us is that you've invited? Because if you invited them and nothing says that you are welcome, then you really didn't invite them.
Wow.
Whoa.
Okay.
Whoa. Kiss the filter.
Wow.
That was
That's
good.
So good.
That's deep right there.
So
Put
it's
some water
like
in my face.
it's like it's almost, I mean, it is, balance isn't the right word, but like to have true connection at the table, it's not only like if you're going to host and set the table, putting your heart and soul and self into it, right? Especially if you're inviting someone to your home and your table, right? Like show yourself, but also being mindful of who you're setting the table for and whatever barriers that might be. Because of course, like I think about this a lot when I host, like I love it for a lot of reasons. But one of the reasons, honestly, like this is ugly, but I love it because I'm in control.
Yeah.
I decide the food. I decide the time. I decide how we're going to sit. I can wear what I want to wear.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's ugly, but that's kind of why I like it. There's a reason why I like it.
Yeah.
And so how can we, right? So that puts me in control and with more power, even when I do this like lovely thing, like inviting you to my home.
Yeah, you didn't know I wanted gluten-free noodles. What if I was allergic to gluten-free? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I know that's not true.
But also, too, you made me think about how with my partner, and we go to have family, you know, the different family cultures she grew up in. She does a good job of informing me of the expectation, right? Because I'm not going in the space that's necessarily about welcoming. Yeah. But how can I still be at ease and have fun and enjoy the food? And so she let me know straight up. Because I grew up in a house where it's time for dinner. If you're wearing sweats, that's cool. Some of the dinners we have, she'll let me know, you need to dress up for this dinner. It's going to start with a cocktail hour. Then we're going to transition to cheese plate. Then we're going to transition to this meal. Wow. Then we're dining, it's appropriate for you to stay in this space to dine with these folks. And I so appreciate that. Yeah. Because that's part of being with family. Right. Right. And so what she's letting me know is the rules of engagement, not in a negative way, but it's just saying this is what it is. Right. And I don't want you to feel lost. I'm going to, just like when you go to your first cocktail hour or a networking event, you want someone to help you navigate the space because it's not necessarily your turf, but it can become that. Yes. I love that. That's a great thing we can do for each other. You can do that for a partner or a spouse or a friend or a sister, whatever, right? We don't know how to do these kind of spaces. Even your first wedding, your first reception. Let's quit assuming that people know how to navigate these things, some of which have been passed down from these very power-centric, hegemonic spaces. That's good. You must teach high school kids to use words like that. Erica, this is amazing conversation. I love this so much. Well, you know it. It's the reason you're number one, season 2. But why was I number one, season 1? Shout out to Chi Chi. Oh, do you know her? Okay, I want to ask how you feed people today. Yeah. How do you take your love of food, your adventurous spirit, your desire to connect people? How do you use food to do that now in your life? That is great. So I'm a person that loves to cook. I love to cook. And I also love my job and my side projects. And so something has to give. I like to be, so I was telling you, I love Shark Tank. And I just became a customer of Moink. No, I'm not getting paid for this. But I love to know that I have meat being delivered to my home that is supporting small farms in some rural, I don't know where. But it tastes good. It's all that stuff like no GMOs, organic, grass-fed. But I love that. So that's part of feeding, because I think one of the interesting things about feeding people is that it's not just about enjoying meals. I think one of the things that struck me is your life depends on my meal.
Yes. Right.
Like, not your life, like not just
My
one
life
meal.
does. Yes.
But yeah, like we need food to
Yes.
live. And so not only am I making it enjoyable, but there's something about my calories that I'm giving you. The calories I'm giving you today are giving you the energy to do your next thing.
Wow.
Right?
Yes.
And so then you think about having a 3-year-old.
Yes.
And then you start thinking very differently about how do you feed this little person? And then how do you help him love food? And so right now how I feed people is, one, I'm thinking about the time.
Yeah.
So you and I used to be in a cooking club with Chi-Chi. We don't do much cooking these days, but the kind of feeding we need is different.
Yes. Right.
We have different things that are being nurtured inside of us in the shape of our dreams.
Yes.
And in the shape of the things that we're passionate about. And that just takes a different kind of sustenance.
What's so interesting about I hadn't thought about this, but now we go out to eat, and it's like, because we've got to like use our energy instead of cooking for each other, which we used to do. Now we got to use our energy to help make each other's dreams come true and our own dreams. And so we're letting restaurants cook for us.
We are, but we're going to good restaurants. Okay?
Yeah, we are.
And taking advantage of that happy hour. I don't really talk like that. But we are taking advantage of happy hour. So that's one thing. Even recently, our friend is dying of cancer. And so we don't have a lot of time, but we know it's very important for us to spend time with her and her family.
Yep.
And so one of the highlights of the last month was having her and her family over. She's only 50 years old. And I ordered a bunch of Thai food, but they never had Thai before. So you think about, how do you expose people to new things, keeping that sense of adventure?
Yeah.
Even this new adventure of ordering this food.
Yeah.
I like to do a farmer's market. I sign up for all these little, let's try to do our produce through this company. And so that's how I'm feeding people now. And the way that cooking is feeding me is really come in a form of stress relief. So yesterday I made lentil soup. And I love taking my time.
Yeah.
I love listening to music. But how do I make space for the other things that are feeding me and my friends in a different way than I have previously? But that's a big way. Ideally, if I had my dream, I would be in a space, and one day we'll be in a bigger space where we invite people over and I'm just cooking a bunch of things.
Gosh, I can't wait for this.
No pressure. No pressure. But that's just not where I'm at now.
Yeah.
But there's a time, I used to have a Cook's Illustrated subscription, and I read it cover to cover. Because there is a love of cooking in my family. Before my dad became a chef, my mom was the cook. Yeah. And so I love to carry these things on. And that's how feeding people plays into my life today.
It's so beautiful. I really love
fun.
that.
Yeah.
Aww.
Get out of here.
Come on. So much love. Okay. I have no idea how you're going to answer this question. What is your favorite Chicago restaurant? Like, if people were coming to Chicago, which they must, where would you say they have to eat?
So, 2-part answer.
We only allow for one part.
Oh my God. First, Peace Pizza.
Oh, yeah.
I never really went to this
place. We
place.
went there for a birthday party a couple weeks ago. It's a great place for a birthday.
It's great.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a spot where it's like our Cheers.
Yeah.
It wasn't really my Cheers, but then my partner, it was her Cheers. We walk in and everybody knows her name. We go there frequently. And so I think what I like about it is a place where people do know our names.
Yeah.
So there's something about trying a place where the atmosphere was warm and inviting, and people are going to serve you with respect. And it's easy to engage in pizza.
Do you know when we went there, they had a, what was it? Honey butter.
Yes.
Honey butter fried chicken pizza.
Totally had it. Yeah, delicious.
I mean, I wasn't eating meat, so that didn't work out for me. But it sounded.
Oh, it's delicious.
I mean, because the honey butter chicken is amazing. But
you couldn't eat it?
No, I wasn't doing meat.
That's stupid.
I know, but I really gave it a good look. What was your second part?
Oh, the second place that I really enjoy, if you're going to go for a treat in Chicago, is Nomi.
Oh, I've never been there.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, we got to go.
Okay.
Nomi is great for food. It's great for drinks. Their outdoor patio is to die for. It's like really close to the lake.
Okay.
So it's in that shopping, like Gold Coast.
Okay.
But it's just sitting outside is great. But even if you're inside, they have a great lake view, fantastic food, great cocktails. I'm a dirty martini, Tito's vodka up kind of gal, and I love having one or two of those. One time I had 3 and it didn't work out in my favor. On the patio. Yeah. But that's the spot to go. Know me. You gotta check NOMI.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
You know me.
You know me.
Again, I don't really talk like that.
Okay. When you do it 5 times and say you don't talk like that, it means you do. Let's go there. Let's go there soon. Yeah. I feel whose birthday is Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi, we're going there for your birthday.
Boom. Happy birthday.
You picked your spot.
You.
This has been awesome. Let's close this up. Let's just end the show with a really wise, wonderful piece of guidance from all the things we've talked about today about creating great tables and being mindful of inequity and all of that. What do you want people to know as we finish up today?
One of the things I would want, I think is part of our talk, but also a theme in my life is what we claim to be doing and is who we claim to be serving reflected in how we do it. As an educator, I ask myself this. As a person that's passionate and committed to educational equity, we have to ask ourselves this. Are we reflecting who we teach and how we teach? As a musician who's creating girl power songs to reflect little girls of color and the music they sing, so often we sometimes we claim to be doing things. Are our dinner tables actually welcoming, or are they beautiful dinner tables that need some kind of instructions on how to gain access? So are we truly providing access to those things that are empowering and freeing for the people in our communities?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much. Follow along Erica. Follow along her girl power songs like she mentioned and all that she's doing. Where else can people find you?
So follow me on Girl Power Songs on Instagram. You can also LinkedIn me, Erica D. Bauer. Again, you're right. And then I also, if you check out my website, Culturally Responsive Curations, that's where I'm launching a number of educational resources. It's really your one-stop shop for culturally responsive education resources.
I love it. Follow Erica and you will be better for it. Thank you so much for this. Thank you for joining me. This was awesome.